little bit of producing on the fly there. Garry Cobb's in Phoenix on his way to the Super Bowl, and we will talk to him at 4:30. And my good friend is going to be the Mariano Rivera or the Jonathan Papelbon of closers for us at 5:30 Eastern, and we will talk with him. So we look forward to this, man. Really a great start to the Super Bowl week, and I thought it was very interesting on what Dave Wannstedt said. Dave said that this is not going to be a situation, okay, where, Vic's going to fail, okay, because of his scheme. He's one of the most respected defensive coordinators, in his opinion, that is in the league. And the coaches that he's bringing in, Dave texted me, said some of the coaches that they're bringing in, there's no question Vic has a complete say in what's going on here with the type of D coordinator he is and the kind of D-line coaches and linebacker coaches. You're probably going to get better coaching here than what you've had over the last couple of years, especially on the defensive side, okay? So you're probably going to get a little bit better. You're clearly going to have more direction when it comes to this. And I believe that you now have put your GM on the line. This is going to be really a Howie Roseman offseason. Listen, getting Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio is well and good. But if you don't have the Jimmies and Joes and the way to put those guys in a position to succeed, you're going to have problems here, and it's going to come back. And believe me, I think the owner may have something to do with this. Jonathan Gannon was good when you look at everything he did. He had 2 years with basically the same players. Forrest, I think what happened is that both Gannon and Steichen put their formula in. The Eagles liked it. And I think they asked other coaches to coach those schemes. And they realized they couldn't do that. Because let's take a look at this. They thought that maybe Nick's influence and what went on last year, he could have covered for that. When they realized he can't, what did they do? They went out and hired all these guys. Actually, they went out and hired 2 guys to fill a staff. They're counting on Kellen Moore to put offensive coaches in the building, and they're counting on Vic Fangio to put defensive coaches in the building. They're not counting on Nick Sirianni to put people in the building. They're just not. Garry Cobb's going to join us from Fox 29 here in a couple minutes at the bottom of the hour here, and we're going to talk with him, and we'll get his takes on everything going on here, and especially what we've seen, and especially the comments that are being made about Sean Desai now. This thing's really picking up a lot of steam here. I just went over to my Twitter page, and people are like this now. It makes sense. Is that Sean Desai had communication skills. And the communication skills he had, the players were not digging it. And the players were not connecting with him. They had problems with him. And they had problems in the building with him. It got to a point where the corners weren't talking. And Hassan Reddick stopped talking to him. And then it got to a point where Nick had to do something because it had festered in the locker room, and it was a cancer. It was dividing. Sean decided, get this. The way I read that is that Sean Desai divided the team. It wasn't Nick. Nick made the poor move because there was no – think about it. Who else would you have put in that role as D coordinator that's in that building? You let Denard Wilson go. You didn't really have any. Who are you going to put? Tracy Rocker? He had never been in that role before. They were almost forced to make that move to go to Patricia. It totally makes sense now. I personally think that Howie didn't want to make that move. I think maybe now Nick didn't want to make that move. But what was the alternative for them to try to right the ship, because the players were in a what? They were in a revolt. I can't wait to get G Cobb on here and tell him what we heard here. And G Cobb's in Phoenix right now. And let's bring him up if we can, as soon as we can here, when we can connect here with him. And we'll get with him here in a second and get his thoughts because, boy, if you had a mutiny there, let's bring G Cobb up while we can. Garry, man, thank you for taking a little bit of time here with us. I want to throw something at you that's now going around here about Sean Desai.
Okay.
Sean Desai was replaced because there were players in the locker room, Garry, like Hassan Reddick and Darius Slay and others who weren't talking to him. There was a kind of a mutiny that his communication skills were not going along, and this was the reason that Nick had to make the move because there were no other options but to go to Patricia, who had been in that role. It kind of makes more sense now that you hear that, Garry, that his communication skills and his issues were dealing with the players. There's a report in one of the team meetings, Garry, that he said, yeah, we got players in here that are on their own page. I won't name any names. And this was in a defensive meeting that he had done that. What's your takeaway on that?
Well, when these type of things, didn't come out right away, starts coming out, always take it with a grain of salt because, everybody's got their version of what happened. And clearly something like that had to have happened because, look at the way the team, there was no fire. Guys are not, playing with emotion. I mean, especially defensively, you got to play it with emotion. And you didn't see that. And you just saw a team that, was 10-1 to go into such a fall where you lose 6 out of 7 games. And not that you just lost the games, but it's like there's nobody angry, nobody fiery about it, nobody emotional. Something like that had to have happened. And I don't think that, it's just one-sided. Like, see, when something like that happens, people have their different versions. And a lot of times somebody has to step in and clean it up. And, the head coach, he's got to ultimately have something to say about this and step in and go, hey, look, I don't care what happened. We got to patch this up. We're on the same side. Can't be fighting each other. But that clearly something like that happened for this team to just fade away. And, you wonder, like, what is going on? I mean, guys are not. Do you see just ruining the whole season? And that was an embarrassing performance. Like, how many of the games were embarrassing performances? The last game, of course, against Tampa Bay, where you get blown out by Tampa Bay. You got, Baker Mayfield looking like he's going to the Hall of Fame. What's going on? And then you got before that, you're losing to awful teams, the Giants, nothing to play for. They blow you out. You're down 24-0 at half. I mean, that's like a team that's getting ready to get the first pick. I mean, they played that poorly. So that's discouraging. So something like that had to happen.
Absolutely. Garry, I know you're at the airport, so we'll make this a little shorter. So we'll give you a couple more here. I had Dave Wannstedt on last hour. And this is what he said about Vic Fangio, because he works with the Bears up there in their broadcast team. And, of course, he was the former head coach, and we both know Dave very well. He said this, that Vic Fangio's schemes are not going to fail when he comes to Philly. He's one of the most respected guys, and it looks like he's been given a lot of autonomy on the assistant coaches that he's bringing in, position coach-wise, D-line, linebacker, safeties, all those kind of coaches, secondary coaches. He said that he will not fail. It'll be the personnel that will fail if this scheme, because he did a really good job up in Chicago. He's been well known for being able to be a great war guy when it comes to that statistic and that metric. Do you agree that if this thing doesn't work with Vic Fangio, this is a personnel issue? It's not a schematic issue.
Yeah, I would probably say so. Yeah, you can see that he's solid. His whole idea of playing the game. Now, some people don't agree with it because he's not as aggressive with the blitzes and everything. But with his schemes, his schemes are solid. I mean, and you cannot make it a habit of giving up big plays and expect to win in the NFL. You're just not going to do that. So the whole mentality of his game, the key is going to be the players being able to, have the type of focus to take in the system, to know exactly what it is that they're trying to do. That's going to be the big emphasis. And I know he's quite a teacher, from what I hear. So, you're going to get that. So that's what I see as going to be the key, and it's going to be exciting to see what happens.
Last question for you, Gary. I know you got to run here. Do you think, again, now that things are starting to come out here at the end about Desai, maybe this is not uncommon, because sometimes head coaches, look at Bill Belichick's bedside manner, or even take a look at Chip Kelly's bedside manner. When you're inexperienced, it's one thing to be a position coach, as you know. It's another thing to be a coordinator of the entire unit in all three levels. You think that this is just maybe, if these comments are true and they're more important to what happened this year, to the collapse, can that be a function of just being inexperienced as a coordinator and not really having it? That one thing he's just got to do, he's got to just work on his his people skills.
Well, going up to the pro level, especially, you've got, the players that you're playing, that you got out there. You've got guys that have already had great accomplishments on the NFL level. Here you are coming in, you don't have those accomplishments. You don't have that kind of a resume. You can be somewhat insecure, but I think the thing you got to do is say, hey, look, this is the way we're going to do it. You got to be confident. And it seems like he didn't have the kind of, marquee type of whatever, the type of personal strength to get these guys in line, or he didn't sell it to them enough, and you have got to go in and sell your system to the players. And maybe, the guys weren't buying in, and clearly there was some type of disruption. And still, even if you say that side of it happened, there were people in the organization that were involved that really didn't say they were involved. But that was just not Nick Sirianni just made that call. Who's kidding who? That everybody was involved because they knew it was important. The whole thing is, they were trying to make too many changes. If he came in and kept the same system, but you start making guys play two gap that were playing gap, now all of a sudden they play in a completely different game. That did not go because the guys weren't able to absorb all of that quickly enough, and they wound up out there playing slow and uncertain. And you can't play defense unless you're aggressive and sure about what you're supposed to be doing.
Absolutely, Gary. I appreciate your time. I know you're at the airport right now. Thank you so much, my friend. It should be very interesting. Oh, by the way, who do you got in Super Bowl Sunday? Who do you got? Chiefs or 49ers?
I got to go Chiefs. I mean, the Chiefs, that doggone, and the guy that I single out is Spagnuolo. He's doing a tremendous job on that defense. I think they're going to get after the young fella, that young quarterback. I think they're going to be showing him all kind of different looks. And they're going to be hitting them from all kind of ways, and I think that ultimately is going to be the game. And then you'll have Mahomes make a few plays, and I think that's what it's going to be. But I got to go with the Chiefs, man. Those guys, they're getting it done defensively. They got the best defense in football, man.
Oh, and no, Spagnuolo has done a spectacular job. Gary, thank you, my friend.
All right, hey, have a good one.
You got it. Always finds time for us, no matter where it is. Special guy. One of my dear friends. Tone, I'll tell you what, man. Let's get you on there at 4:45, and we'll how about 4:45? Does that sound right? What do you think? 4:45, and we'll sweep the top of the hour. We'll go that. We're out there. We'll do that. Okay, so we'll do that at 4:45, and we'll get him on. I think it's going to be an interesting time here, man. I really do. All right, hit the like button. Keep it here on the National Football Show.